Welcome, everyone. Today's topic is other people's money. Find, discuss, deal, and share joint ventures. Okay, now we are in a people's business, real estate. It is practically impossible for you to make it by yourself successfully in real estate. You have to have a team of people. And what they say is that you need the three T's. You need time, treasure, meaning money, and knowledge. Okay, so oftentimes people don't have everything that it takes to be successful in real estate. That's where we need to leverage from networking, other people's resources, other people's money to create a joint venture and um, compensate what you cannot bring to the table with a partner. Okay, so what's really critical and what we're going to focus on today is what is it that you need to look for in a partnership, and not only that, but the legality of it. How do you set that up for you to be successful in real estate? Because what I've heard from investors is that most investors don't have the time. Others have money, but they don't have the knowledge. And others have a lot of knowledge, a lot of time, but they don't have the money. So that is why we're going to leverage from joint ventures. Okay, so we're going to cover everything there is to know about joint ventures. Let's dive into it. So this is from the Wall Street Journal, the huge benefits of joint ventures. In other words, just to quickly summarize, is that you're leveraging from other people's strengths to make up for your weaknesses. Not only that, but it's a way for you to diversify. Okay, we've done a couple of joint ventures very successfully, and they've been a blessing because in our case we don't have enough time to do more deals. So we partner up with people who have a lot of time to be overseeing the project. And what we take care of is lining up the crews and funding. Okay, but they have to oversee the entire project. That's just an example. So, but we're going to go over the legality of it. Now, what's the biggest challenge for real estate investors? There are many, many challenges. The biggest one is lack of time. Okay, and the second one is they just can't find a great deal, right? Because guess what? If you find a great deal, there's going to be plenty of people who can partner up with you, who can provide the funding, and who will want to take or be part of it. Okay, very, very simple. So this is where the solution comes into place to any shortcomings that you may have. Joint ventures, okay? But the key thing is that you pick the right partners. So how do you know who the right partner is? Well, you need to identify what you can bring to the table and what you don't have. Again, the three pillars are money, time, and knowledge, okay? Uh, so you need to understand and be aware of your weaknesses. What is it that you cannot bring to the table? Okay. If you don't have time, you need to find somebody who's got 40 hours available to do real estate. Okay. And vice versa. If you have the time, but you don't have the money, then it's what you need to find somebody with money. Where do you find these people? We're going to be running a speed networking event live on Sunday, August 30th. Okay, so that you can potentially find another partner to create a joint venture. Okay, now the basics. You've got to leverage from other people's money. Okay, because this is what we've discovered most people lack, or they believe they cannot be successful in real estate because they don't have money or credit. But that's just a big myth, and we're going to crush it today, okay? Because guess what? If you have a great deal, you're going to have plenty of sources for funding, especially when we show you how to present that deal to get it funded. So now let's quickly talk about the basics of a joint venture. Okay, what's a joint venture? Why is that so important? We quickly cover that to undertake a transaction for mutual profit. Okay, but you are going to complement each other's strengths. That is the key of a joint venture. And then you obviously are going to diversify and share the risk. Now, you can do a joint venture using your entity, which I highly recommend, or you as an individual, but it's way better to use an entity because you're going to limit your liability, okay? You're not exposing your personal assets should things go sour, okay? So you always want to create a joint venture with a partner using your entity, super important. Okay, so these are the key elements that you need to have. You need to have an express and written agreement, which we're going to go over step by step, and then you need to express the intent of the joint venture. What's the objective? Is it to flip a property? And the joint venture is going to have a term, okay? When does the joint venture end? When we sell the property of a flip project, okay? And then contributions of each partner. What is it that you bring to the table, okay? And then ownership percentage. What percentage do you own from the partnership? And this is something very important. This is driven by contribution, okay? If you have a lot to lose, you've got to have a bigger percentage, okay? So most oftentimes, if somebody's funding the deal, they have a lot to lose. Therefore, they have to have over 50% ownership in the joint venture. That is my personal advice. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you have, let's say, less than 50%, and let's say you have two other partners, when they add up, their ownership percentage is obviously going to be 51%. So technically, they can vote you out. So if you have 49% and you are funding the deal, you are at a risk. That's just a tip of advice. And then how you're going to split the profits. Typically, this is based on the contribution from each of the partners. But we're going to go over an example. Okay, so joint venture. Joint ventures can be made up of individuals, as I mentioned, your name, or corporations. So this is what I highly suggest that you use your entity to limit your exposure of your personal assets. So you're going to have active partners, or they could be passive. So passive partners are the ones who provide the capital, okay? And you need to understand what is it that you lack and what is it that they bring to the table. So combining both the strengths, that's what's going to make a successful joint venture. Please make sure that you don't partner up with somebody who lacks what you lack. So if somebody else that you want to partner up with lacks, let's say, time, and so do you, then you both are not going to be successful in the joint venture. So you really need to pick your partner carefully. So you're going to be able to do more leads. So this is what the most important benefits of a joint venture. Okay, number one, you're going to simplify the deal process. If you're going to flip a property, if you're going to buy and hold a property, partnering up with the right individual, bringing what you don't have is what's going to make your transaction successful. Now, should you partner up on a buy and hold? Should you partner up on a flip? Should you partner up on a wholesale? My advice is that you partner up either on a wholesale or a flip. Okay, why? Because it's in and out transaction. It's fairly quickly. It's got a time frame. However, if you want to do a buy and hold partnership or joint venture, you better know who you are partnering up with. Why? Because that's a long-term investment and things can change over time. So I highly suggest that you only do joint ventures on flips and wholesales. That's about it. If you are interested in doing buy and hold, I highly suggest that you do not use joint ventures. If you lack money, it's best for you to pay a Harmony lender or a private money lender the return they're looking for in exchange for the money. But you don't want to have a joint venture agreement on a rental because a rental is a long-term investment, and your life, your partner's life can change. So that you're asking for trouble in the long term when you do a JV on a rental. They may want to sell the property, or you may have different opinions on the management for the property, tenant screening, rent collection, rent property management. So you're opening up a can of worms. Okay, so it's very difficult to have a successful joint venture on a buy and hold or rental. So please stick to flips and wholesales for joint ventures. So when you don't do this right, you have a lot of headaches. So this is just a list of just few of the issues that you can end up when you don't pick the right partner. So we're going to make sure that you pick the right partner. Um, so the agreement plays the most important role in the partnership, because that's going to stipulate everything that you will do, how you're going to split the profits, and the responsibilities of each of the members. So very, very simple. Okay. So this is what the agreement is going to identify. The objective of the joint venture, so it could be a flip, it could be a wholesale, then the contribution, role, and involvement of each of the partners. Okay, what is it that you're going to contribute? What's going to be your involvement time-wise? Okay, what's going to be your role? Are you going to be the manager? Are you going to be in charge of managing the rehab? Super important. Then the term or duration of the joint venture. Okay, so when will the term end? Let's say, assume if you're doing a flip, when you sell the property, right? If you're doing a wholesale, when you assign the contract to a cash buyer. Next, the provisions for management and performance. Super important. Okay, who's going to be the manager? There's going to be an assigned manager in the joint venture. And then how you're going to split the revenues or profits and expenses. Super important to lay that out in the agreement. So now what we're going to go over is the agreement, the joint venture agreement. So I just created one. Let me maximize this so we can go over the components of the joint venture. I want to make sure that you can all see these. Okay, perfect. Let's start. So the joint venture agreement, so it's created. I created that today just as an example. So this is the template that we personally use that we're going to share with you. But I want to make sure that you understand all the components of the joint venture agreement. Okay, so it's between, you always want to use your company name. Okay, in this case, for instance, Home First Realty and ABC or XYZ, whoever you're going to partner up with. So you always want to use your entity for liability protection. Okay. Background. So the members wish to enter into an association of mutual benefit. And in here, once you explain the background, in consideration of, this is where you're going to specify what exactly is the joint venture for. Okay, so the purpose of it. So once you explain the formation, the name, so you can give it a name, okay, for the joint venture, and the purpose. This is what you're going to end up doing with the property, whether you're going to flip it, whether you're going to wholesale the property. So in this case, will be used for flips. And then this is when the term, and let me continue to the next page, term duration. Let me minimize it. We went to the next page. Okay, so the term duration is, okay, went over to, let me pull that up again. Oh, okay, perfect. So right here, page 2 out of 3. Okay, so the term duration, sell of the flip, okay? And then the term might be extended. Now, place of business. So here you need to decide where the bank statements are going to be mailed out, where all the legal documentations are going to be mailed. So it could be your address, it could be your partner's address, so that's to be determined. Now, business management, who is going to be appointed as the manager? In this case, I just made that up. And then in here, management duties. So what are the duties of the management? In this case, you're going to manage day-to-day business activities, monitoring, whatever the all the day-to-day activities for the management are going to be. Okay. In here now, let's go to the next one. This is okay. Monitoring. So member duties. So right here, this is, I like this table where you specify every single member and the duties of each of one. So for instance, Home First Realty, line of funding, ABC, managed fleet. So this is where you identify what you bring to the table and how you are going to complement each other's strengths. So somebody needs to oversee the project, somebody is going to be in charge of funding, or one could do both. It's just entirely up to your needs. Now, capital contributions. So this is super important. How are you going to contribute to the joint venture? So here, you can put a percentage or you can put a dollar amount. So Home First Realty is going to do the funding, 100,000. ABC can contribute up to $5,000. Okay, so contributions. Withdrawal of capital. No member will have the right, I'm right here, to demand or withdraw any portion of their capital contribution without the express written consent of the remaining members. So here, this is where you specify, right? Because when you create a joint venture, you're gonna have a bank account just for this venture, right? So you wanna express the procedures as to withdrawals, right? Because it doesn't mean that both of you can withdraw money from it. So this is where things start to get complicated, right? So you've got to make sure that there's somebody and written express consent when you're going to withdraw money. Additional capital, capital accounts, interest on capital. So these are some technicalities. Books of accounts. So who's going to be in charge of keeping the keeping the books up to date? Banking and venture funds. Okay, more details. Member meetings. So you have to hold either weekly, bi-weekly, monthly meetings. So in this case, I chose monthly meetings. Okay, and then you need to have record minutes for the meeting. Super important. Here are the details, amendments, and then here number 30, admitting a new member. If you're going to admit a new member, let's go to the next one. This disassociation of a member. So super important. So this is just a template that we use, very standard, that you're going to be able to update. So this is the PDF version. We're going to give you the Word so that you can update this version of it. But here explains some clauses, how you can break out of the association, how you get paid out, or you're going to be bought out. Dissolution of the joint venture. Okay, so what happens, or what needs to happen before the joint venture gets dissolved? So here are some examples. Okay, now we're going to go over to the next point, valuation of interest liquidation. So if somebody's going to leave the partnership, how you're going to liquidate the partner or be bought out. Transfer of member interest, force majeure, if somebody else, something really big happens. Duty of loyalty, confidentiality, language, insurance. So here are some pretty much out of the box clauses for Illinois joint ventures, okay, that you need to have. Liability in here, 49. What else? Joint venture property, jurisdiction, warranties. So these are all out of the box that you have to have in the agreement. Definitions, some definitions, miscellaneous, that we can go over later and then sign. So it's a very simple, I mean, it has 65 paragraphs, so it seems like it's very complicated, but at the same time, it's very simple. In a nutshell, this agreement is going to show what each of the members are going to contribute, their duties, and how they're going to split the profits. And in an event of a split, how they're going to split, okay? But super important, as I mentioned before, make sure that the ownership percentage is based on the contributions. Now, are there any questions so far with this agreement? Okay, so there are a few questions. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this the operating agreement or it's a different thing?
Oh no, this is just the joint venture agreement. So you can have an operating agreement with more details attached to the joint venture agreement, okay? Or oftentimes you can include the operating agreement as an addendum or an appendix, okay? So let me just give you an example of an operating agreement, okay? Operating agreement. Okay, so right here. So this is an example of an operating agreement. Okay, formation, register agent, the terms, continuance of the company, business purpose, the members admission. Let me show you profit and loss distributions. So it has similar language to it, management, members, powers of the managers. So this is an example of an operating agreement. So as you can see, this is a little bit more detailed than the joint venture. The joint venture is a little bit more generic. So you could have an appendix including your operating agreement into the joint venture, okay? But you're gonna see that everything that you need could be specified in the joint venture, okay? So using this type of joint venture agreement will suffice. You don't need an operating agreement attached to the joint venture because this particular joint venture template details pretty much everything that is required for you to understand what each of the members is doing, how they're contributing, the day-to-day activities, distribution of losses and profits, and in event of a dissolution, how that's going to be handled. Okay, so you do not need an operating agreement. You do need an operating agreement when you create, for instance, an S corp, an LLC. So you're going to have that as a separate document. But in a joint venture, you do not need it, okay? It's sort of embedded into it. Great question. Another question is this operating agreement? Okay, if not, will you send us a copy? Absolutely. You all are going to get a copy. Phil. Okay, so thank you, Phil. So you just need to send an email to support@ChicagoDealVault. I would like, yeah, so everyone is going to get a copy of this agreement. Super, super important that you have this template. All you need to do is modify it. So we're going to send you the Word document. Okay, so this is the format that you are going to get because this has the editable components. Okay, are there any other questions with the joint ventures and why this is so important? Yeah, absolutely, Vishal. If you need the operating agreement template, we can also send you that. Are there any questions with the joint ventures and why these are so important? Okay, so I want to tell you the things that could go wrong. So what are the things that could go wrong when you do a joint venture? Um, things that could go wrong are as follows. When your partner is not complying with the duties expressed in the agreement. So if somebody is to oversee the project and that individual is not complying with that, that's a source of trouble for the partnership or the joint venture, okay, when you are not sticking to the agreement. So that is why it is super important that you carefully select who you're going to do a joint venture with. That individual has to have something to lose, okay? Because if you partner up with somebody who has nothing to lose, that does not guarantee the success of your joint venture. So you really need to partner up with somebody that is bringing something to the table that you don't have. Again, you need three components. You need knowledge, you need time, and you need money, okay? Super important. So oftentimes, let's revisit and summarize what we just talked about. If you're going to do a flip, joint venture is the right way to do a flip, or a wholesale. If you're going to do a buy and hold, I suggest that you do that yourself, okay? That you do not do a joint venture with anybody. If you don't have the money, pay a private money lender, hard money lender. It's expensive money, but try to do it yourself, because you're asking for trouble in the long run. Because after 2, 3, 5 years, they're going to need to do something with the property. They may want to sell it. They may want to disagree. There are going to be a lot of sources for disagreement on a rental. So please try to just do a joint venture on flips and wholesale. Super important. Let me see if there are any other questions on the chat. New agreement for each deal. Absolutely. So you need an agreement or a joint venture per deal. Super important. And you can record these at the uh, courthouse. Whatever county you do the deal with, you can record these. Super important to record this agreement to make it 100% legal. When you sign it, you can get it notarized as well. So that's gonna make it official 100%. So again, how do you find the best partners? You've got a network. You have to come to events like the one we're going to do at the end of the month. We're going to do some speed networking live, okay? And we're going to do it very efficiently. We're going to talk about very quickly, like sort of like speed networking, where you're going to find out what the other individual is interested in as far as exit strategy, what counties are interested in, what is it that they bring to the table, what is it that they lack, right? And then that's how you can mix and match for a potential partner. Okay. So this concludes the webinar today on joint ventures, because they're super important, but at the same time, you just have to be cautious who you partner up with. Okay. And something that is super important to mention is that you want to do a joint venture before you create entities with somebody else. So if you want to partner up with somebody else, do a joint venture. Never create an LLC or an S corp with somebody else, because that's a little bit more complicated. You need to register that with the state, and guess what? If things go sour, you have just incurred a lot of overhead, right? Because you need to file taxes on that entity or LLC, S corp. Whereas when you do a joint venture, it's just a partnership agreement. Okay, so it's a lighter weight. So this is how you get to know somebody. Do 1, 2, 3 joint ventures, and if those are successful, then you can decide to go ahead and create an LLC. But never, never, ever create an LLC with somebody that you don't even know. First, you do a joint venture. And remember, you do it not under your name. You always want to use your entity. So you create an entity for yourself. If it's only you, create an S corp. If it's you and your spouse, you and somebody that you know closely, you can create an LLC. Okay. And then you can use that entity to do a joint venture to partner up with somebody else. So you always want to do JVs on a per deal basis, okay? Depending on what you lack and what they bring to the table. Super important, okay? Those concepts for you to understand. Now, if you still don't have access to Chicago Deal Vault is a source of pretty much deals, private money lenders, off-market deals, MLS deals. So we're gonna give it to you for free for the next 30 days. We wanna make sure that you do have access when you come to the bootcamp. We created a promo code, it's called JV. So when you fill out the form, select for the package right here, special Chicago Deal Vault. Okay, right here. So for the package should be special Chicago Deal Vault, and for the promo code is JV. Okay, and then please send us an email to support@ChicagoDealVault, and then to request JV agreement. Okay, we're gonna send you the Word version of it so that you can edit it. I want to make sure that you're able to do joint ventures, and please make sure that you come to the bootcamp on Sunday 30th, 1 p.m. live event, DoubleTree Oakbrook. We're going to do speed networking. I want to make sure that you find somebody that brings what you don't have to the table. Are there any other questions on the line? Do you know it's where we're not in Wisconsin, Craig, unfortunately, with DealVault, only Illinois for now. And we're getting into Indiana, but we're not yet there in Wisconsin. The bootcamp, it's a live event, okay? So we're doing a live event at the DoubleTree. So thank you everyone for joining. I wanted to keep it short, but give you content. And I want to make sure that you have that template, because in your next deal, I want to make sure that you do a joint venture, okay, with somebody on a flip or a wholesale. Super important that you partner up with somebody that brings what you don't have. You need to have knowledge, money, and time. If you lack any of those, that's who you need to find, okay? And then just use the template and you're going to be hitting the ground running super fast. So I look forward to seeing you live on August 30th.